Hey everybody, it's May 30th, 2017, and we're back again for another go-to training session. This is for DFM 201, Lighting 2, Digital Lighting 2. And this evening I just had a discussion I wanted to have. We've had a low turnout tonight, which is fine. This is week 4 of our May session, so I imagine most folks are still wrapping up final projects and getting their remaining outstanding materials together to hand in. So no harm there. I'm joining you from the conference room at the clubhouse in my community, right outside the beautiful 10th tee and 18th greens. So that's the reason for the different setting this evening. But nevertheless, I thought it would be a good idea to have this discussion with you folks. It's probably something that may have occurred to you before. And it has to do with confidence levels, and it has to do with how you accept the pressures or the limitations that may be placed on you in situations where you are asked to perform vis-a-vis, make a film or a video. And you're feeling a little, either you're feeling a little challenged personally, or you may feel that you're constrained, either unnecessarily or unfairly by budget or by help or by materials and equipment to work with. And so I wanted to share with you a letter to one of my students on this topic, and just give you my thoughts on the matter. As you might know from reading my bio, I've got 28 years of experience, career and life experience, living and working on set across the country and in certain areas of the globe, making feature films and television. And these are things that I've learned after a number of years of being at it and being challenged and being tested. And I thought I would share that with you. Take this opportunity to just have a heart-to-heart, non-technical talk about what is it, what are we involved in, and what's the weight of importance, what's the significance of what we do. So I'm going to pull this thing up because I need to follow my own text in this case. But I'll just sort of paraphrase it to you. And so just sit back for a few minutes and consider what I have to say and see if it resonates with you at all. And if so, of course, I'm always open to questions, either live or afterwards. If you get an opportunity to watch this film off of the YouTube site or whatever, and you want to put a comment in the comments section, you're free to do that as well. I get those notifications as well, and I'll answer you as quickly as I can and as accurately as I can. So having said that, I won't introduce this student so that we don't compromise her identity or embarrass that student in any way. But basically, it's we'll call her friend. So, hi friend. I'd like to address the single most outstanding note in your paper and offer some insight to you. This was from a C-spot for a cinematography class. We call it cinematographer's spotlight, and this is where you would take the opportunity to introduce a cinematographer, talk about their style, talk about their working relationships, any special tools or techniques that they use, and compare and contrast those that body of work or those tools and techniques with other cinematographers from a working list that we have in the class, which is essentially the active roster of the American Society of Cinematographers, which can be viewed at their website, theasc.com. Anyway, so the comment made by the student was basically, I think that this cinematographer did a great job completing this shot. I really would love to attempt this, but I don't have the resources. Okay, so this seemingly harmless statement lays the groundwork for failure. And it's a trap, and I want to explain why. And I want to caution you not to fall for it. When you write a cinematographer spotlight or when you write a discussion post, I know that the discussion posts are supposed to be a little bit less steeped in technical jargon and terminologies that you will learn in the days and weeks that comprise each monthly session. And the C-spots involve a little bit more research. But the point is this, and this is a situation that I run into fairly frequently, and that is that a lot of students are tempted to give me a movie review of something that they saw and use that as a discussion post. Or in terms of a research paper, they make unqualified statements. For instance, I like the work of so-and-so because it made me feel intense, or it really got me involved in the action. Well, these are all valid emotional responses to a cinematographer's work. But when we're talking about an analysis or an educated discussion, an educated and informed discussion about the work of a specific cinematographer, those can't be our benchmark lines of reason. Okay, we can't say Stephen Poster's work is amazing because he really knows how to follow the action. That's not enough. And as you get deeper and deeper into your research, as we get deeper into the coursework, each week, hopefully what will happen is you will add a new body of terminology, a new body of information, and a new set of experiences learned and received through tutorials and through readings that will help you make more informed observations and more effective analysis of some of this material. So when we write a cinematography spotlight, we don't want it to sound like fan mail. Simply liking something is fine for a casual observer, but it's not going to be enough in the analysis that's required of this class. Basically, we're analyzing things so we get into the skill set and the habit of being able to look at pre-recorded material and derive a sense of how that material was constructed, either through close and comprehensive analysis of the lighting, with supposition on the types of fixtures or the color qualities that may have been used, the performance of the camera in terms of movement and in terms of sequence design. We want to call attention to collaborations with art department, and we want to be able to culminate all that knowledge into reasonable observations that we can then offer to our peers in the form of discussions that hopefully will stimulate deeper conversations and get everybody sort of used to speaking and dealing with the material, even if we don't have the means or the opportunity to work in the field just yet. At least we can engage one another, and we can start using the material, using the technology, using the the glossary of terms to make shop talk, basically, to talk craft with one another. Let's put it that way. That's in simplest terms, so we can talk craft effectively. Anyone who's informed and educated in the conventions of filmmaking is qualified to comment on analysis and matters of shop talk discussion. This is your opportunity to offer a viewpoint that is uniquely yours. And we're talking about informed points of view now. We're not talking about casual emotional responses to material. We're talking about, I like Hoyt van Hoytema's camera movement because he uses it subjectively in a way that makes me feel as though the camera has become a third character in an interaction between Joaquin Phoenix and his PDA, played by Scarlett Johansson in the movie Her, and so I feel like I'm a third party in a relationship between a man and his computer. That's a valid observation, using informed decisions, an informed point of view on camera movement, what it's doing, and how it is interacting with your viewing experience. To say I just liked the movie Her because it was colorful is, unfortunately, for lighting to cinematography to upper division classes, that's simply not enough analysis. And so we want to encourage you to have deeper conversation. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you is that in my experience, one of the biggest takeaways from my career has been that for all the perks, for all the advantages and preferred viewpoints that I've had, from all of the scenery that I've enjoyed, the places that I've been, the people that I've met, the job is and has always been heavily weighted in terms of problem solving. It's always been my biggest task, no matter the film size or complexity, no matter the budget, or the genre for that matter. No matter the situation, it's always been my job to make $1 million look like $10 million. To give a producer champagne on a beer budget, or make 10 pounds of stuff fit in a 5-pound bag. I mean, literally, that has been my job for decades. In a way, the problems were always economic fixes. I mean, large or small, let's face it. They either lacked time. The solutions either lacked time, money, or manpower to be effective. And so that sort of brings up a conundrum for us. We used to have a saying, especially in television, the idea that things require speed, quality, or efficiency, and you can choose any two. So basically, if you want us to work fast, you can pick then quality or efficiency to go along with that, but you can't have all three. If you want us to be efficient, then you have to choose between speed and quality. In other words, there always seems to be a compromise. And I finally realized that this is the true nature of filmmaking. We rarely have enough of what we need to make these things happen, whatever we're seeing in our mind's eye. However, that never stops us from trying to accomplish what we've seen in our mind's eye. It means that every accomplishment we make is the product of a good plan that occasionally, for whatever reason, became a compromise. Not always. That's not always the case. Sometimes things go off without a hitch. But it seems like, at least in my experience, that the ones that stand out in my memory, the kind of stubborn objectives that cause you to compromise or lose sleep at night or study your book, your production binder, till all hours of the morning. Those types of experiences often represent the best of times in my career. Moments when I was tested and achieved results that in retrospect are as valid as anything I might have planned in the first place. It's just that just because you have a good plan doesn't mean that you can't go off topic. You can't deviate from that plan slightly or radically, depending on what presents itself to you on the day of shooting. A lot can happen between the days of pre-production when you plan something and the days of principal photography when the schedule is underway and the wheels are grinding and things are moving forward and constantly changing, and you have to readjust to the new variables that cross your path. Actors' availability, injuries, rewrites, weather. Weather's a huge one. All these things can contribute to a deviation in a plan that seemed really good and rock solid, but for whatever reason, you had to scrap it and you had to go by the seat of your pants, as we say. Right now, you're in the process of becoming an informed professional filmmaker. Your ideas and your opinions and your results matter. Never mind what can be accomplished in a perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world. Instead, learn to appreciate the experience of pulling the wool over the audience's eyes. In other words, through great pains, hell and high water, you pulled off the shot of the century, and nobody has to know and probably never will know the lengths that you had to go to accomplish that goal. But when you did, it made all the difference in the world, and that's all that anybody really remembers is what was on the screen, what they paid their $12.50 to see. So nobody, unless they're a filmmaker, is going to understand the pressures and the constraints that you might be under. If they did, they'd be working, they'd be in the industry as well. But along with that is the idea that hindsight is 20/20. Anyone can armchair quarterback a situation and say, oh, well, I wouldn't have done it that way. But they really can't say for sure what they would have done and how they would have done it unless they were there, because they don't know what things were happening to you as a filmmaker that made you go off plan, or that made you compromise your results or your method. Who knows? Could have been anything. And so it's easy to criticize and say, well, that's not what I would have done. But you don't really know that for sure, do you? Until you're in that situation. They say, don't judge me until you've walked a mile in my shoes. And I think that has a great deal to do with it. So keep that in mind. The only thing that's certain are the results on the screen. In this case, and with very few exceptions, the end really does get justified by the means through which you achieved it. So keep that in mind. Trust in yourself. Trust in your knowledge that you gain here, that you gain through personal study. Trust in your growing body of experience. Every time you do a project, it's an opportunity for you to try new techniques, experience the joy of production. Really, sounds corny, but it's true. It's fun to build a body of work and experience that will teach you, that will inform you for choices that you make in the future. So don't be afraid to try something that's a do-it-yourself solution. don't be afraid to try something that you had to cobble together at the last moment on set because the gear that you were supposed to get didn't show up, or the guys that you were supposed to have, the help, uh, got cut from the budget, or the director decided that he didn't want to shoot that way, he wants to shoot that way, but you put everything over there and now you got to move it over here. Whatever the reason is, embrace those moments and remember that these might actually be the times when you had a chance to shine. Michael Bay used to like to really rattle people. He was a bit of a screamer, sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes he was just doing it to see what kind of individual he was dealing with. Can this person feel the pressure and perform and give me what I need? Despite the fact that, I am putting them through a severe ordeal, which is Bayham, any production that Michael is directly and intimately involved with. Feels like a disaster from the outside looking in, but when you're in the middle of it, if you're close to it, there is a chaotic simplicity to it, and there is a intelligent design, so to speak, of what he's trying to accomplish. And you have to be close to it, and you have to be willing to check your ego at the door, and just go into it with an open mind and say, whatever this is, I trust this guy, and I know that whatever he, decides that we have to do tonight or tomorrow or next week, he's not going to make me look bad, because he'll end up looking bad too. And we're not in the business of making each other look bad. We're in the business of selling tickets and creating amazing work. So it's in nobody's interest to set each other up like bowling pins, as we used to say. So remember that it's a strong possibility that the best results in your career, and I know in my career, some of the best results were what I call happy accidents. In other words, I didn't expect it to be done that way or happen that way or go down that way, but it did. And in retrospect, when you go to the dailies and you watch the rushes from the day before, you've had a chance to sleep on it and get some rest and distance yourself from the intensity and the adrenaline and the anxiety of the moment. And you look at it with a clear head and clear, fresh eyes, and you say, you know what, that's not bad. Those results are as good as what we might have gotten doing it the other way. But this works. It works well, and it looks good. So keep that in mind. And remember that, a large portion of the time you're going to be asked to improvise. And don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to let the plan change. Go in with the plan, that's great. Go in with the plan and be prepared every day to wad that plan up and throw it in the trash. Because that may be exactly what you're asked to do. And never allow yourself to make the excuse that because you don't have something, that you can't produce something of value as a solution to the problem in front of you. I don't have these kind of lights, so I can't light this set. Well, that's a load of codswallop, because you ought to, as a professional, be able to work with whatever tools are given to you. That's why they call us professionals. Anybody with all of the tools and assets and time in the world can produce amazing things. They say if you put a monkey in a room with a pad of paper and a pencil, in a million years he will have created all of the works of Shakespeare. Well, yeah, but who's got that kind of time, right? So don't be afraid of the happy accidents, and don't be afraid to improvise. I think that's my primary message. So Michael Jordan used to say, when somebody asked him what the reason was for his success, he said, the only reason I'm successful today is because I failed so many times before today. And so keep that in mind, because that's a really important lesson. It's not our successes that define us. It's how we handle our failures. And someday you'll look back and you'll realize that ultimately we succeeded because at some point we failed, and we failed well. So that's it. That's all I have for you for tonight. Think of that. Consider that. Write me back if you feel moved by what I've had to say, or if you have an opinion on what I've had to say. Put a comment in the section below, or email me directly. And I wish you all the best of luck in your upcoming classes, and I look forward to looking at your final projects. And that's it for tonight. So good night and good luck with finals, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Thanks.